They
You
sold her
stupid
newborn
girl.
son for a
You
plane
open
ticket
your legs
and left her
got
to rot in a
pregnant.
prison
Where
cell,
do you want to give birth
believing
to
she
that
was too
child?
weak to ever fight back. But Titi and Martha made a fatal mistake. They didn't break Mary. They forged her into a weapon. Now walking the streets of Lagos with nothing but the clothes on her back and a terrifying vow burned into her soul, Mary is no longer the victim they despised. She is a mother on a warpath. Witness the heart-stopping journey of a woman who will cross oceans, endure starvation, and tear apart the world to find the baby they stole, proving that while you can
You
take
stole
everything
the
from a
money,
mother,
Mary.
you can never take her revenge.
Why have
Hey
you
there, pour a cup of tea, get comfy, and let your heart listen. The story's about to start. Welcome to Tales Vibe, where laughter and lessons flow together. If you love a good story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more tales every week, and please tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We'd love to know where our story family is tuning in from. Mary knew early in life that love was not meant for her in that house. She was born with Martha, but from the first day, they were not treated the same. Titi made it clear. Martha was her pride. Mary was her mistake. If the food was small, Martha ate first. If there was praise, it was Martha's. Mary learned to watch and stay quiet. Titi trusted Martha with everything: money, secrets, plans. Mary was never included. When Mary asked questions, Titi snapped at her. When Mary spoke the truth, Titi said she was rude. Martha copied their mother well. She laughed at Mary, mocked her, and enjoyed every insult that came her way. Mary was different. She did not like lies. She did not like trouble. When Titi and Martha took things that did not belong to them, Mary stayed away. When they blamed others to escape punishment, Mary kept silent. She never exposed them, but she never joined them. That was enough to earn their hatred. Titi called Mary holy woman, with bitterness in her voice. She said Mary thought she was better than them. Martha followed her lead. She pointed at Mary in front of others and laughed. She said Mary would end up alone because no one liked people who acted righteous. Mary heard it all and swallowed her tears. Inside the house, Mary was treated like a stranger. She washed more, worked more, and received nothing in return. If anything went wrong, Mary's name was mentioned first. If anything went missing, eyes turned to her. She defended herself only once. That day, Titi slapped her hard and warned her never to talk back again. Mary learned a painful lesson. Silence was safer. She cried only when no one was watching. At night, she lay awake, wondering why she was born into that family. She did not wish harm on them. She only wished they would see her as human. Martha enjoyed Mary's pain. She told her often that Titi would choose her over Mary any day. She said blood meant nothing when love was involved. Mary believed her. Every action in that house proved it. Still, Mary held on to something small inside her. A belief that goodness mattered. A belief that truth would one day speak for her. She did not know how. She did not know when. But she knew one thing for sure. In that house, she was the one they hated. And that hatred was waiting for the right day to destroy her. Living in that house taught Mary how to endure pain, but it did not teach her how to stop hoping. Even with the hatred she faced daily, her heart still wanted one thing she had never known: love. That was how Cunnel entered her life. Cunnel spoke softly to her. He listened. When she talked, he did not insult her or laugh. For the first time, Mary felt seen. She hid the relationship from Titi and Martha, knowing they would poison it if they found out. Cunnel promised her marriage. He said her kindness was rare. Mary believed him because she wanted to believe someone could choose her. When Mary realized she was pregnant, fear wrapped around her heart. But there was also joy. She told herself this child would love her in a way no one ever had. She went to Cunnel with shaking hands and told him the truth, expecting comfort. Cunnel's face changed. He stepped back. His voice hardened. He said Mary was trying to trap him. He said the pregnancy was not his. Mary begged him to remember his promises. Cunnel laughed and said she was foolish. That was the last day he spoke to her. He blocked her and disappeared like smoke. Mary returned home carrying shame that was not hers. Titi noticed the change in her body and asked questions. When the truth came out, the house exploded. Titi shouted that Mary had ruined her name. She called her loose and useless. Martha laughed openly and said she always knew Mary would bring disgrace. From that day, Mary's suffering doubled. Titi reminded her daily that no man would claim her. Martha followed her around with cruel words, asking who the father was and mocking her growing stomach. Mary said nothing. She lowered her head and endured. She carried the pregnancy alone. No support. No care. When she felt pain, she kept it to herself. When fear came at night, she placed her hands on her stomach and whispered to the child inside her. She promised the baby a different life. A life filled with love, even if she had to give it alone. Titi warned her that a child born in shame would bring trouble. Martha said the baby would suffer for Mary's sins. Their words cut deep, but Mary refused to hate her unborn child. That baby became her reason to wake up each morning. As her body changed, so did her resolve. She told herself that once the baby came, she would endure anything. Hunger, insults, even rejection. She believed motherhood would save her. But unknown to Mary, the hatred that lived in that house was watching closely, waiting. And the child she carried with so much love would soon become the weapon they would use to finally break her. Mary carried Samuel for 9 months, hiding the fear and shame that had been forced upon her. When he was finally born, she held him close, whispering promises into his tiny ears. "I will protect you, Samuel," she said. "I will love you always." For a brief moment, Mary felt hope. She believed that love could shield them both. Was born. The pain was heavy, but she welcomed it. When she finally looked into her baby boy's face, something shifted inside her. For the first time in her life, she felt chosen. She named him Samuel and whispered promises into his tiny ears. No matter what happened, she would protect him. But peace did not last. Only days after Mary returned home with her baby, trouble entered the compound. A woman began shouting that her money was missing. People gathered quickly. Voices rose. Accusations filled the air. Mary stayed quiet, rocking her baby gently. She knew nothing about missing money. Then Titi spoke. She pointed at Mary and shouted that her daughter should be searched. Mary froze. Her heart began to race. She asked her mother why she would say such a thing. Titi ignored her. Before Mary could stand up, Martha rushed inside the house and came back with Mary's bag. She dropped it on the ground and opened it. The missing money was inside. Mary's breath left her body. Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped her baby. She cried and said someone must have put it there. She begged them to believe her. She reminded Titi that she had just given birth and had not left the house. Titi looked at her with cold eyes and said Mary had always been pretending. She said Mary's holiness was fake. Martha nodded and said the truth had finally come out. The crowd believed them. The police arrived shortly after. Mary knelt down, holding Samuel tightly. She cried and begged them not to take her. She said she was innocent. When the police asked who would care for the baby if she was taken away, Titi stepped forward immediately. She said she would handle it. Mary screamed. She clutched her baby harder and begged her mother to stop. Martha pulled Samuel from her arms while Mary fought and cried. The baby screamed as he was taken away. Mary collapsed to the ground, crying his name over and over. The police dragged Mary to her feet and pushed her forward. Her cries filled the compound, but no one helped her. The last thing she saw before entering the police vehicle was her baby crying in Titi's arms, his little hands reaching out. As the vehicle moved, Mary's world went dark. She had endured insults. She had endured rejection. But this pain was different. They did not just take her freedom. They took her child. And in that moment, as the sound of her baby's cry faded away, Mary knew that the hatred she had lived with all her life had finally found its cruelest form. Mary entered prison carrying more than chains. Her body was weak from childbirth, but her heart was heavier. Every step away from her baby felt like a wound that would never close. At night, she lay awake listening for a cry that was no longer hers to answer. Her breasts ached, her arms felt empty, and her mind refused to rest. Days passed without comfort. No one asked about her pain. No one cared that she was still healing. Mary survived by thinking of Samuel. She imagined his face. She prayed someone was holding him when he cried. She told herself her mother would not hurt him. She had to believe that, or she would break completely. Then one afternoon, a guard called her name and said she had visitors. Mary's heart jumped. Hope rushed in before fear could stop it. She rushed forward, already calling her baby's name. When she entered the visiting area, she saw them. Titi, Martha, and Samuel. For a moment, Mary forgot the prison. She stretched out her hands and cried. But she was told to sit and keep quiet. She obeyed, shaking, her eyes fixed on her son. He looked smaller, thinner, but he was alive. Titi leaned forward and spoke in a low voice. She told Mary to stop crying. Then she said the words that shattered her soul. She said Samuel was not Mary's child anymore. She said they would sell him and use the money to leave Nigeria. She said Mary should forget she ever gave birth. Mary's body went cold. She begged. She cried until her voice broke. She promised to work, to suffer, to do anything. Martha laughed and said Mary was wasting her tears. She said Samuel would grow up calling another woman mother. The officers warned Mary to be quiet. She reached out for her baby, but she was pushed back. Samuel cried as Martha held him tighter. Titi stood up calmly and said nobody would believe Mary if she spoke. When the visit ended, Mary screamed and tried to follow them. Guards dragged her away as she cried out her son's name. Her voice echoed through the corridor until it was swallowed by silence. Back in her cell, Mary collapsed on the floor. She could not cry anymore. Her chest felt empty, like something vital had been removed. She whispered Samuel's name again and again until sleep took her. That night, something inside Mary changed. The pain did not leave, but it hardened. The words her mother spoke did more than wound her. They killed the last part of her that believed mercy lived in that family. After the visit, Mary stopped expecting kindness. The words Titi spoke replayed in her head every hour of the day. We will sell him. Each time she heard it in her mind, her chest tightened. She prayed it was a lie, a cruel trick meant to break her. But deep down, she knew her mother too well. Days later, the prison gates opened again, but not for Mary. Outside those walls, Titi and Martha were already moving fast. They spoke in low voices and made quiet plans. They told people Mary had disgraced the family and deserved what she got. They said the baby would be better off without her. Anyone who questioned them was shut down quickly. A rich couple came quietly. They did not ask many questions. They only wanted a child. Titi presented Samuel like an item for sale. Martha stood beside her, smiling, proud of what they had arranged. When the couple saw the baby, they nodded in approval. Money exchanged hands. Thick bundles were counted carefully. Titi's face lit up. Martha laughed and said their suffering was finally over. No one mentioned Mary's name. No one wondered how a mother could survive such loss. Samuel cried as he was passed into new arms. His cry was brief. He did not know what was happening. He did not know his mother was locked away, screaming his name into empty walls. With the money secured, Titi and Martha moved quickly. They sold the house without delay. The place Mary had known all her life was emptied and forgotten. Neighbors whispered, but no one intervened. Fear and silence protected evil. Plans were made to leave Nigeria. Tickets were bought. Bags were packed. They spoke of a new life, free from shame, free from Mary. They laughed and celebrated while Mary sat behind bars, her body breaking from grief. Inside prison, Mary felt something tear inside her chest. She did not know yet that Samuel was gone. But a heavy darkness pressed down on her spirit. She stopped eating. Her strength faded. She whispered prayers with dry lips, begging God to protect her child. Days later, the truth reached her through quiet whispers. Her mother had sold the house. They had left Lagos. And the baby was gone. Mary sank to the floor. Her scream did not come out. Her tears did not fall. She sat frozen, staring at nothing. The pain was too deep for sound, too heavy for tears. They had taken everything. But inside that broken silence, something else began to grow. A vow. Silent. Fierce. Unbreakable. If she ever walked out of that prison alive, she would search for her son. That money would not bury the truth. That blood money would not erase her. And no matter how far they ran, one day it would call them back. When Mary finally walked out of prison, she carried nothing but pain and a single unbroken vow. Her body was thin, her hands rough from hard labor, but her heart weighed far heavier. She had no home to return to. Her family had sold the house, vanished, and taken her son. Lagos, once familiar, felt like a city built for strangers. Mary walked slowly, each step dragging against invisible chains. She went from street to street, asking neighbors what had happened after she was arrested. Some shook their heads. Others whispered quietly. One woman told her, "Your mother took the baby with a rich couple. Nobody knows where they went." The words struck Mary harder than any slap she had ever felt. Samuel, her son, her reason to survive, had been ripped from her forever, or so it seemed. For days she wandered, unsure where to sleep. Hunger gnawed at her stomach. Exhaustion weighed her body down. Her clothes were tattered. Her feet cracked from walking long distances. But she refused to stop. She refused to give up. Every step was for Samuel. Every breath was a promise that she would find him. Mary begged for work. She swept floors, washed dishes, ran errands for anyone who would take her. Most people turned her away. She felt invisible. But she did not complain. She did not give up. Hunger, shame, and fatigue became familiar companions, but her vow burned brighter than her pain. At night, she lay on the bare ground, curling into herself. Her tears soaked the floor. She whispered to God and to Samuel, promising she would find him, no matter how far or how long it took. She imagined him growing up without her and cried until her body ached. But inside that sorrow, a seed of determination took root. They could take her home, her family, her baby, but they could not take her will. The city around her moved on without her. People laughed, argued, and went about their business. Mary felt invisible, yet in that invisibility, she found focus. She began to plan. She would search every corner of Lagos, every street, every wealthy home, until she found the people who had her child. And when she did, she would not be weak. She would not plead. She would reclaim what was hers. That night, as she lay under the dim light of a flickering street lamp, Mary made her first real decision. She would survive. She would endure. And one day, she would hold Samuel in her arms again. Nothing else mattered. No hunger, no loneliness, no fear. Samuel was all that mattered, and Mary knew, deep in her soul, that she could walk through fire, cross oceans, and fight every injustice in Lagos if it meant finding him. She stood the next morning with empty hands, empty pockets, and an unshakable heart. She was walking out with nothing, but she was walking out alive. And alive meant hope. Mary stepped into the city with only the clothes on her back and a heart full of pain. Hunger was her constant companion. Each morning, her stomach ached, and her throat burned from thirst, but she could not stop. She could not afford to stop. Samuel was out there somewhere, and she had to find him. She wandered through crowded streets, asking anyone who would listen if they knew where her mother and Martha had gone. Some shook their heads. Some whispered quickly, warning her not to make trouble. One woman, her face lined with sorrow, said quietly, "They took your baby with a rich couple. No one knows where they went." Mary thanked her softly, but the news only made the ache in her chest sharper. Her son had vanished, carried away by strangers, sold for money. Days turned into nights. Mary begged for small jobs. She washed dishes at roadside eateries, swept floors, ran errands. Some gave her scraps of food, some turned her away. She slept wherever she could, curled up on hard floors or cold streets, biting the edge of her wrapper to stop her sobs. Hunger cut into her body, exhaustion weighed her down, and loneliness pressed in like a heavy stone. But every time she imagined Samuel, she lifted her head and forced herself forward. At night, she whispered to God and to her son. She told Samuel she would find him. She asked for strength and guidance. "Keep him safe," she prayed. "Let someone love him. Let him not forget me." The words were her lifeline, the only thing keeping her from falling completely apart. Mary began noticing details in the city she had never seen before. Faces, cars, wealthy houses. Anything that could lead her to the people who had taken Samuel. Every question she asked, every story she heard, became a small piece of the puzzle. Slowly, a map of possibilities formed in her mind. Even as hunger clawed at her, Mary refused to stop moving. She skipped meals, walked miles, and refused to rest more than a few hours at a time. Each day brought frustration, but also hope. She learned to read the people around her. Rich families often drove black cars, their children accompanied by servants. If Samuel had been sold, he would be with such people. Mary memorized every detail she could, determined to recognize him when the time came. Through the pain, through the endless questions, Mary held on to one thing, her vow. Nothing would break it. Not hunger. Not exhaustion. Not the emptiness of a city that seemed too big for one lost mother. Samuel was alive, and she would find him. Every step, every question, every pang of hunger was another step closer to him. Mary's heart refused to surrender. And in that refusal, hope glimmered, small, fragile, but unbroken. Mary had been wandering Lagos for weeks. Hunger gnawed at her bones, and exhaustion weighed on her body, but her heart refused to surrender. Samuel was out there somewhere, and she would not rest until she found him. Each day, she asked strangers, neighbors, anyone who might have seen her mother or Martha. Most shook their heads. A few whispered of a rich couple who had taken her baby. But there were no leads, only fragments of a trail she could barely follow. One afternoon, she sat by the roadside, her hands trembling from fatigue and hunger. She stared at the busy crowd, the laughter and chatter around her feeling like a cruel reminder of the life she had lost. Her stomach growled, and her throat burned. A middle-aged man selling fruits noticed her pale face and worn clothes. He approached gently. "Sister, you hungry?" he asked. Mary nodded silently. He handed her a small bunch of bananas. She ate them slowly, savoring each bite. The man studied her for a moment and said, "I know someone looking for someone to help care for her child. You look like you need work. I can take you there." Mary's heart raced. Could this be an opportunity, or another disappointment? She nodded quickly. Desperation left her no room for doubt. "Please take me," she whispered. He led her to a large, quiet compound at the edge of the city. The gate was tall, painted green, and the air inside felt different, calm, safe. Inside, a woman sat under a tree, a small boy playing nearby. Mary's breath caught. The woman looked up at her, her eyes soft and searching. "So, you are the one he told me about," the woman said gently. Mary bowed her head. "Yes, Ma," she whispered. The woman studied her for a long moment. "I need someone patient and careful to take care of my son," she said. "I have seen many people, but none looked serious. Something tells me you are different." Tears stung Mary's eyes. The words pierced her heart. This was not Samuel, but she knew this was a chance to heal, to hold and nurture again, even if just for a while. "I will take care of him like he is mine," Mary said softly, her voice trembling. The woman smiled. "You can start tomorrow. I will give you a small room, so you will not sleep outside again." Mary's heart swelled. She looked at the little boy who had come closer, his innocent eyes meeting hers. For a brief moment, Mary felt hope stir, a fragile flame, but enough to keep her moving forward. That night, Mary lay on the borrowed mat, whispering to the stars. "Thank you, God," she said. "Please keep my own son safe until I find him." For the first time in weeks, she slept without crying. Taking care of another child gave Mary a reason to keep moving, but it also made her heart ache. Each time she held the little boy in her arms, she felt the warmth and softness she had lost with Samuel. She kissed his forehead, combed his hair, fed him, and rocked him to sleep. But every smile, every laugh, reminded her of her own son, stolen and sold. Her soul burned quietly with grief, but she refused to let it consume her. She had a purpose, Samuel. Mary worked tirelessly. She woke before dawn, prepared the boy for the day, and tended to every task the woman, Mrs. Ade, asked of her. She never complained, even when her body ached from hunger, exhaustion, and old injuries. The work gave her structure, a rhythm to survive, but her mind was always on Samuel. Every child she saw reminded her of him. Every laughter reminded her of the smile she had lost. At night, after the little boy slept, Mary would curl up on the small mat she had been given and whisper to God. She prayed for Samuel's safety, for his happiness, for a chance to see him again. She promised him that she would not rest until she found him, no matter the cost. "Keep him safe until I find him," she whispered. "Let him remember me. Let him know I never gave up." Tears soaked the mat, but her vow remained steady, unshaken. Mary also made another promise, a silent warning to Titi and Martha. She had been broken, humiliated, and betrayed, but she was alive. One day she would rise. She would find Samuel. And when that day came, Titi and Martha would see that the girl they despised was no longer helpless. They would know that taking her son, selling him for money, and leaving her to suffer had only forged a stronger, sharper will inside her. Every step she took while caring for Mrs. Ade's child, every small victory in keeping him safe and happy, strengthened her resolve. Mary understood something vital. She could not undo the past, but she could survive it. She could prepare for the day she would claim her son again. Her grief had become fuel. Her sorrow had become a map, guiding her through the chaos of Lagos, through hunger, through humiliation, toward the future she would take by force if necessary. And while Mrs. Ade's child slept peacefully under her care, Mary whispered one final promise that night, into the darkness of her small room. "I will find you, Samuel. No matter how long it takes, no matter how far I must go, I will find you. And when I do, the world will remember that I am your mother." The candle of hope burned small but steady inside her. The story was far from over. Titi and Martha had thought they had ended it, but Mary's promise, the promise of a mother who had nothing left to lose, would haunt them long before justice arrived. Mary has lost everything, but she has found something far more dangerous, a reason to fight. After watching her own mother and sister sell her baby for a plane ticket and leave her to rot, the question isn't if she will find them, but what she should do when she does. Do Titi and Martha deserve any mercy for their betrayal, or should they suffer exactly as Mary did? Tell us in the comments. If this happened to you, how far would you go to get your child back? And if you are ready to see Mary cross oceans to hunt them down and unleash her revenge, hit the like button and comment part 2 right now. The real war is just beginning. And that's the end of today's tale. We hope it brought a smile, a thought, or a little bit of magic to your day. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to Tales Vibe for more weekly tales, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We love hearing from our story family all around the world. Until next time, keep your heart open, your imagination alive, and remember, laughter and lessons always go hand in hand. See you in the NE.